Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Update 1.11 came out a few hours ago and it's the biggest one yet. There's a lot to go over on this one, so let's jump right in. The download size comes at just under 1 GB and it includes a number of changes Polyphony Digital promised back in March when they put out an apology letter after the reception update 1.08 got. Firstly, they increased the rewards for most events like they promised, but it's the new ones they added with this update that see the biggest increase. There's one for Tokyo Expressway, for example, that pays 550,000 credits. It's a welcome change, but a fairly inconsistent one. There are many other events of similar length that don't pay nearly as much, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So hopefully that's something they're able to go back and fix in a future update. Speaking of new events, there are 3 new ones. One at Tokyo Expressway like I said, another one at Le Mans, and a third one at Sardinia Road Track. They also adjusted how much money you make in arcade races and custom races, but again, it's very inconsistent. A 200 lap race in Tsukuba and a 200 lap race in Nürburgring 24 hours pay pretty much the same amount of money. And when you take into account that you can do a lap around Tsukuba in under a minute while Nürburgring would take you around 7 to 8 minutes depending on how fast you are, it doesn't really make much sense. As I said in another video, a 200 lap race in Nürburgring 24 hours should pay enough to allow you to buy the most expensive car in the game, because we're talking about a race that will take most people no less than 30 hours to complete. Circuit experience now pays a lot more when you get gold across all sectors, and I mean a lot more. Just so you have an idea, some of the tracks now pay 1.2 million credits. Nürburgring is the highest paying one, earning you a total of 6 million credits if you manage to get gold in each one of the 12 sectors. If you have already completed the tracks before this update, go into the screen that lets you pick the sectors, back out through the exit button, and the game should retroactively pay you the revised amount. Daily races and lobbies now pay more after this update, and they also fixed a bunch of issues people were having with the online in the game. There's a new set of missions called the Human Comedy, and they're all 1-hour endurance races. This new set is available for everyone who reached Collector's Level 23, and each one of these events can pay up to 1.2 million in-game credits. The missions also show more information about the events before you jump in, which is very helpful, and on top of that, they adjusted how the game displays ranking information about the events, and 3 of them had their rankings reset. The amount of money you can have in your account has been increased from 20 to 100 million, which is a very helpful change considering how I managed to get 12 million credits just by going back to the tracks I had completed in the circuit experience to get the revised payouts. The invitations you would occasionally receive to buy exclusive time-limited cars in Brand Central now will be valid for longer, and the number of cars listed in the lineup of the used and legendary car dealerships have been increased. There are also fixes for some of the cars in the livery editor. The physics also got some tweaks. Jumps were notoriously bad before this update, especially in dirt tracks, but now they're a lot more controlled, which is good because that means no more sudden heart attacks. They also fixed some other bugs related to the speedometer and the exhaust fire in 2 of the cars in the game. As for the offline races, they fixed an issue with inconsistent penalties, which is something I had noticed before, but I just thought some of the events didn't have penalties turned on. As it turns out, it was a bug, and now if you drive like a moron, you get penalized pretty heavily. There's also a minor bug fix for the penalty system at Goodwood, and an adjustment to the starting position of the pit stop at the Daytona International Speedway Tri-Oval. You can now turn the BOP on and off for the group cars in custom races. There are also a couple of small fixes for the AI in the game. Moving on to the graphics, image quality of smoke has been improved in race photos, and there are a couple of fixes for the smoke and debris in certain situations. Replays have also been adjusted so that the menu only shows up when you press X or circle. Sound also gets a pretty substantial bug fix where surround sound not properly plays when the output mode on your console is set to 7.1. That's something I didn't really notice because the game sounded great even before this update, but now everything sounds way more full and spatial, especially when you drive through tunnels. There's a change for the ghost settings and a new option called temporary exposure setting that allows you to control the exposure at any point during a race. Now, I know that this one might seem useless at first, but if you have HDR turned off, racing at night at Le Mans, for example, was pitch black and very difficult to see. That's not an issue if you have HDR turned on, you can see just fine, so if you don't have a HDR display or prefer to play with it off, you can now actually see the track if you adjust the slider. These changes only last for the race. Once you back out, the game reverts back to the original exposure settings from the main options menu. Very good. Car collection has a couple of new options as well. Pressing triangle will have the cursor jump to your current car. L2 and R2 will respectively move the cursor to the previous and next car you have in your collection, and square will move the cursor to cars labeled as new. There's a small change to the replacement of light bulbs in GT Auto. It now shows the temperature of the light. The text for the trophy Really Good Fun has been corrected, and the thumbnails for the news you find in the title screen have been split up so that it's easier to read. And lastly, if you have a FANATEC wheel, you have access to a bunch of new button mappings. As usual, the patch notes and with various other issues have been addressed, and it's up to the community to find out exactly what that means. Overall, this is a very solid update, but it's not the only one. There's another one coming out later this month that will add more cars and new track layouts on top of the usual round of bug fixes and adjustments. Keep an eye out on the channel for those. That's all I have for this one. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all on the next one.